What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're checking out the Rosecraft Blades Obed Creek Bow Trapper. This is the latest Rosecraft traditional coming to me by way of the Apex Pass-Around group, and it's probably my favorite that we've taken a look at so far. It's a single-bladed slip joint, which I'm definitely partial to, so I'm sure that's lending to it. I also love the curve of the handle, the color of the covers, and even that skull shield. I think that looks absolutely sick. And so overall, just a super clean, fun design from Andy Armstrong. The Obed Creek Bow Trapper is available on Rosecraft's website for $58.99, and it's model RCT015, but of course I'll make sure to leave a link in the description where you can find more information about this knife. Now this is part of their traditional lineup, which of course means we have a slip joint and beautiful walk and talk on this one. I know I mentioned in the last Rosecraft video that the pull is a little bit on the heavier side, which I actually prefer, but I know not everyone does, so if you like a slightly lighter pull, this one's still kind of neutral. It's stout, but it's not too heavy. I'd say maybe about a 5.5, and so definitely significantly easier to open and close than the previous one that we took a look at, and it's still ultra smooth, snappy into all three positions, really jumps into that half stop really nicely, so no fear of it closing up on you, and ultra satisfying to just kind of open and close. It maintains those great acoustics, sounds excellent, so really happy with that aspect of it. Now another thing that I really like about this design is the sizing. So like a lot of Andy's designs, he bases them or draws inspiration from these old traditional patterns. So the Bow Trapper is a pattern that we've seen before, and of course he takes his own liberties, adds his own flair to it, and so you see things like the heavy swedging at our tip, or even that skull shield that's inspired by his maker's mark, but he also took some liberties with the sizing, and this is a little bit larger than I'm used to seeing on this pattern, but I think that 7.2 inch overall length lends itself really nicely to this design, and so I think that works really well, and I'm glad they ended up making that choice with this design. That gives us 4.125 inches to work with in the closed position or in our handle length, and so I'm able to get a full 4-finger grip on that. Great ergos, ultra secure. Because of the curved nature of that handle, it really locks your hand in place. You don't have to worry about sliding off the back end of it because it kind of slants or bows downwards there. And then it also keeps you from sliding forward all that much. So you get this nice, tight, snug, secure grip. It's relaxed. It doesn't feel too cramped or like I'm going to fall off the back, and just feels great in hand. So really love the ergos on there. I also just love the look of the curved handle for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that is, but I always like when I see curved handles like this. Now, in terms of our blade, we get a 3.1 inch drop point style blade, which I think aesthetically works great with this knife handle design. I think it just kind of lends itself really nice. Heavy swedging on the tip, like we mentioned before. Full flat grind on there, nail nick deployment. We have D2 steel, Rosecraft stamped onto the tang, and then if we flip over to the back side, we have Andy's maker's mark, as well as D2 steel and RCT015 etched on the back. So loving the blade shape on here. The length is perfect for me. I really like that. It does create some issues in terms of regulations on the length of blades that some countries have. I don't live somewhere that has any sort of length regulations, and so not an issue for me, but I know some European countries limit you to 3-inch slip joints, and so this one is going to be a little bit on the longer side. Now I think most of those are measuring cutting edge, so you should still be okay here, but it's really up to the discretion of whoever's measuring, and I know some people don't want to take that risk with a 3.1 inch long blade, and so this may not be the best for that situation. Now in terms of the weight on this one, 3.5 ounces, which is a little bit on the heavier side, not super heavy for a slip joint, and it is a little bit back heavy. It still feels ultra balanced, but you definitely get more weight in the handle, which is again to be expected with slip joints. That's kind of the norm there. Now feels still ultra balanced and beautiful fit and finish on this one as well. Let's actually close it up to take a look, and it's exactly what you'd expect from Rosecraft. They always do a great job on their fit and finish, so we can take a look at the centering and see that that blade is right down the center. We have no significant gapping or stepping of any sort, or no gapping or stepping at all, not even significant, but no gapping or stepping on our spring. Beautiful termination of that spring as well. I know that's something Tim was pointing out that he prefers over the case spring termination. And then in terms of our transitions, ultra smooth. We have this fluted bolster. We go over to the micarta's perfect transition. We have the nickel silver pins as well as our shield, and you really don't feel any difference on those kind of transition. Same on the backside. Obviously we don't have a shield on the backside, but same thing here. In terms of our covers, I don't think I've even mentioned those yet. We have a blue-green micarta. To me, it's more green than blue. I'm not seeing a lot of blue hues here. I would describe it more almost as like a forest green, but I love the coloration of that as well. And I'm a big fan of that shield. I hope they continue to use it on other designs in their lineup, which I wouldn't be surprised to see since it is inspired from Andy's Maker's Mark, and so far he's designed all of their slip joint designs. In terms of that walk and talk, I already mentioned the pull being maybe a 5.5, maybe a 6, but I'd say probably a little bit on the lighter side, 5.5, and great walk and talk on here. I'll actually stop talking so we can listen to that for a moment here. It definitely maintained the great acoustics. And you can see how it snaps into that half stop. No worries that that's going to accidentally blow past there. It definitely locks in nicely there. And it's jumpy into all three positions, so really satisfying to just kind of sit there and open and close. No, not everyone thinks of slip joints as fidgety knives, but they're definitely very fidgety. They're just more of a two-hand fidget, but very satisfying to just kind of open and close on this one. I think they knocked this design out of the park. This is one I don't have yet. I feel like this is a must-have in my collection, so almost certainly going to pick this one up at some point down the road. Would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments below. One other thing, that this one always reminds me of the late Randy of Randy's WSG, may he rest in peace. Good friend, obviously he was a fan of this knife, but it also just reminds me so much of him because the shield kind of reminds me of his logo. The color of the handle also reminds me a bit of his logo. No red in there as well, but that green reminds me of the green in his logo. And so just kind of a nostalgic in that regard. That may be another reason I really like it and another reason I may want to add it to the collection. But I'm a big fan of this design and would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments. Now, as usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or checking out some of my other content. And I hope you have a great one. Take care.